Gloria Allred, and you're watching GVTV News.
Thanks, Gloria, and I'm Randy Henson. In today's World News headlines, the U.S. considers unilateral Syrian strike after UK vote against use of force. And anti-war protesters rally against U.S. military action in Syria. And U.S. intelligence black budget tops $50 billion. And U.S. spy satellites played key role in hunt for bin Laden. And Merrill Lynch to pay $160 million in largest racial discrimination settlement ever. And U.S. allows states to legalize recreational marijuana. And crackdown on brotherhood and journalists continues. And IRS extends tax benefits to married same-sex couples. And bank report records $42 billion profit in second quarter, or records that. And fast food workers go on strike in 60 cities demanding living wage. And U.S. seeks to expand military presence in the Philippines, and 30,000 march on Colombia to support small farmers. And a report says veterans commit suicide at a double rate of civilian population. And protests in Montana after teacher sentenced to just 30 days for raping a student. GVTV News is broadcast on Grass Valley Television, division of Rural County's television network, whose focus is on community involvement, and we also air on NCTV. But before these stories, GVTV News would like to thank one of our underwriters who support your only visual video news media in Nevada County. That's right, it's us, GVTV News. Today's first world news story, the Obama administration is considering launching unilateral airstrikes against Syria after British lawmakers voted against the use of force. Pentagon officials said that the Navy has moved the fifth destroyer into the eastern Mediterranean Sea. The vote in Britain came after a heated debate over the intelligence surrounding the claims that Syrian government launched a chemical weapons attack last week. So an opposition leader, Ed Miliband, questioned Prime Minister David Cameron and said, "There have been no motion passed by this House tonight. Can the Prime Minister confirm to the House that he will not use the royal prerogative to order the UK to be part of a military action, given the will of the House that has been expressed tonight, before there's been another vote in this House of Commons?" David Cameron, British Prime Minister, said, "It is very clear tonight that while the House has not passed a motion, it is clear to me that the British Parliament reflects the views of the British people, does not want to see British military action. I get that, and the government will act accordingly." Any U.S. military strike looks likely to be delayed at least until UN investigators report back after leaving Syria on Saturday. And the U.S. State Department spokesperson Maria Harf said the United States will set its own timeline for action. Anti-war protesters gathered in New York City and Washington, D.C. the other night, and calling for a diplomatic resolution on the crisis in Syria. One of the protesters said, "Please leave us alone. It's our country. You have no right whatever to bomb it or do anything. Go take care of your people here. Give them money. They deserve it more than spending on a war that there's no reason. It's another lie. Please leave us alone." Documents leaked by Edward Snowden have revealed CIA has mushroomed into the largest U.S. spy agency with nearly $15 billion budget as it expands intelligence, cyber sabotage, and oversees covert operations. On Thursday, the Washington Post published details about the so-called black budget of the nation's 16 spy agencies. Altogether, the spy agencies requested nearly $53 billion last year. More than half the money was split between the CIA and the National Security Agency and the National Reconnaissance Office, or the NRO. Their documents also reveal the NSA is paying hundreds of millions of dollars a year to U.S. telephone and internet companies for clandestine access to their communication networks. In addition, the black budget revealed that the United States has carried out counterintelligence operations against governments of Israel, Pakistan, as well as Iran, Russia, China, and Cuba. Washington Post also revealed U.S. commando raid that killed Osama bin Laden was guided from space by a fleet of satellites which aimed dozens of separate receivers over Pakistan to collect a torrent of electronic signals and intelligence as the mission unfolded. Satellites operated by the National Reconnaissance Office performed over 387 collections of high-resolution and infrared images of the Abbottabad compound in the months prior to the raid. The brokerage firm Merrill Lynch has agreed to pay $160 million in the largest racial discrimination settlement ever. 8 years ago, a group of African-American financial advisors sued Merrill Lynch, alleging their bosses segregated the workforce by steering African-American brokers into clerical positions and reassigning their accounts to white workers. More than 1,200 current and former Merrill Lynch employees could be eligible to take part in that settlement. And the Obama administration said Thursday it will not sue to stop the states, including Colorado and Washington, from allowing recreational marijuana use. Voters in both states passed groundbreaking ballot measures last November to legalize the use of marijuana for adults. And it's about time. Egypt's Muslim Brotherhood has called for a nationwide protest after Friday's prayers that protest the military-backed government that ousted Egyptian President Mohamed Morsi last month. On Thursday, Egyptian authorities arrested 2 more senior Brotherhood figures, including Mohamed El Beltagi, a former member of parliament and head of the Brotherhood's Freedom and Justice Party. Meanwhile, the crackdown on journalists continues in Egypt. On Tuesday, authorities detained 3 journalists working for Al Jazeera. A total of 5 Al Jazeera employees are now being held by the Egyptian government. The Obama administration announced Thursday all legally wed same-sex couples, no matter which state they live in, are entitled to the same U.S. federal tax benefits as married heterosexual couples. Ruling follows a landmark U.S. Supreme Court decision in June invalidating a key portion of the Defense of Marriage Act, which had defined marriage as between a man and a woman. U.S. banks reported a record net income of $42 billion between April and June. At J.P. Morgan Chase, profits increased by 31% to $6.5 billion in the second quarter. That means the bank made an average of more than $70 million a day during that period. Meanwhile, CNN Money reports that nation's 5 biggest banks are on track to pay out $127 billion in total compensations, including at least $23 billion in bonuses this year. Must be nice. Fast food workers went to strike in 60 U.S. cities in the largest protest of an almost year-long campaign to raise service sector wages at restaurants, including McDonald's and Burger King. Striking workers say they want to unionize without retaliation in order to collectively bargain for the $15 an hour living wage, more than twice the federal minimum of $7.25. Longtime fast food worker Chantel Walker went on strike in New York City and said most of the individuals who work in the fast food restaurants, which is one of the fastest growing industries in the city of New York, it's a race to the bottom. A significant number of them in retail and fast food restaurants are women of color who look like me, and so there is a feminization of poverty. It's a term that describes most women who live below poverty level who are struggling to make ends meet. Pentagon Chief Chuck Hagel met with top Filipino officials Thursday, including President Benigno Aquino, to discuss expanding the U.S. military presence in the Philippines. The Obama administration has been negotiating a deal to allow U.S. forces to store equipment and supplies and to deploy on a temporary basis ships, planes, and troops at several locations in the region. Filipino protesters condemned the U.S. military presence. According to the local Filipino officials, the United States has been attempting to secure the use of an old airport to use as a drone base. Defense Secretary Chuck Hagel said the United States is not seeking to build permanent bases in the Philippines, which was a U.S. colony from 1898 to 1946. Chuck Hagel's the U.S. Secretary of Defense, said the United States does not seek permanent bases in the Philippines that would represent a return to the outdated Cold War mentality. Instead, we are using a new model of military-to-military cooperation befitting two great allies and friends, looking to increase our rotational presence here, and we have done recently in Singapore and Australia. Hagel's visit to the Philippines comes just days after at least 60,000 people rallied in Manila, largest protest ever against Aquino's government over government corruption. And news from Colombia: about 30,000 people marched in Bogota on Thursday in support of a 10-day protest by small farmers against privatization, trade deals, and alleged neglect of rural areas. Farmers say they have been unable to compete with the subsidized U.S. and European crops imported under so-called free trade deals. Julio Roberto Gomez, union leader of Colombia, said the purpose of this protest is to express our deepest solidarity with the farmers' movement in this national farming strike and demand that the national government immediately solve this problem. The situation is extremely serious, involving 12 million farmers, but it affects 47 million Colombians. A new investigation by News 21 has found that U.S. veterans are killing themselves at more than double the rate of civilian population. About 49,000 veterans took their own lives between 2005 and 2011. Nearly 1 in every 5 suicides nationally is a veteran, even though veterans make up about 10% of the U.S. adult population. And protesters rallied outside a Montana courtroom, calling for a resignation of a judge over his handling of a case involving a high school teacher who raped a 14-year-old student who later took her own life. Prosecutors had sought a 20-year prison term for the teacher, but the judge Todd Bao sentenced him to just 30 days in prison. During the sentencing, the judge said the 14-year-old student was older than her chronological age and that she was as much in control of the situation as the teacher. Irish writer Seamus Heaney, who won the 1995 Nobel Prize in Literature, has died at the age of 74. And that's it for our world news today. Now another thanks to one of our underwriters who supports your only visual video news media in Nevada County. That's right, it's us, GVTV News.
Soundcheck Music Center, the rock and roll connection. We have guitars, amps, drum equipment, sound accessories, lessons, and repairs. We are located at 671 Maltman Drive, Grass Valley. 530-272-7236, open 7 days a week.
No one needs anyone, they don't even just pretend. Jonas in America. I'm afraid of Americans. I'm afraid of the world. I'm afraid I can't help it. I'm afraid I can't. I'm afraid of Americans. I'm afraid of the world. I'm afraid I can't.
That's right, it's time for the police blotter and pictures in the blotter, not from these actual events, but used for visual aid only. These public records are obtained from daily logs issued from Nevada County law enforcement. Nevada County Sheriff's Office on Thursday, 8:47 a.m., a caller from 14,000 block of Judy Lane reported a dog attacked a neighbor. At 10:16 a.m., a caller from 10,000 block of Dalewood Way reported a vehicle was broken into sometime over the night. 10:51 a.m., a caller from 10,000 block of Oak Hill Drive reported a fire from a neighbor's residence. At 12:40 p.m., a caller from 21,000 block of Big Oak Drive reported her prior tenants had wings of birds hanging up in one of her outbuildings and was concerned she was to be blamed for the wings of birds at the time of her home sale. 12:54 p.m., a caller from 11,000 block of Willow Valley Road reported possible mountain lion activity in his residence. He has a possible injured deer on his property. At 1:07 p.m., a caller from 13,000 block of Highway 49 reported a turtle in a dirty pool at a motel. And 1:09 p.m., a caller from Highway 49 and North Bloomfield Road reported an unconscious subject on the side of the road. And 1:52 p.m., a caller from 11,000 block of Hill Creek Drive reported a cat in a trap. 2:04 p.m., a caller from 900 block of Maidu Avenue reported found wallet came in the mail. And 2:36 p.m., a caller from 12,000 block of Honeydew Lane reported theft and fraud of checks. 4:10 p.m., a caller from West Hacienda Drive and Combe Road reported juvenile, approximately 8 years old, sitting near the middle of the street and caller almost hit him. 5:06 p.m., a caller from 11,000 block of Magnolia Road reported possible theft of cat. Maybe it was in a trap. 7:38 p.m., a caller from 12,000 block Brittany Springs Road reported a large snake in her residence that she called to have removed. At 8:52 p.m., a caller from 21,000 block Highway 20 reported an overturned vehicle. And 10:37 p.m., a caller from 19,000 block of Tiger Lily Lane reported she heard 4 gunshots coming from the area, possibly across the street. And Friday, 1:35 a.m., a caller from Sawmill Lake Campground reported a group of 10 males and females who had been drinking were heavily armed with long guns and handguns. And they had been shooting off weapons all day and now setting off some type of fireworks. Grass Valley Police Department on Thursday, 9:43 a.m., a caller from Doris and Celesta Drive reported a large sewer leak in the area. Pew. 11:34 a.m., a caller from 2,000 block on Nevada City Highway reported a stolen pit bull was possibly just in a dark green vehicle on Nevada City Highway heading possibly towards Brunswick. 1:05 p.m., a caller from 100 block of Dorsey Drive reported a woman in front of an above apartment throwing things, screaming, and throwing items down the stairs. And 1:45 p.m., a caller from 100 block of Sutton Way reported theft of a wallet from a resident by a caregiver. And 1:52 p.m., a caller from 100 block of Glasson Way reported a stolen license plate sometime last week. And 2:14 p.m., a caller from 300 block of Manor Drive reported a found snake. It's believed to be a pet, and the local cats are harassing and playing with it. 3:11 p.m., a caller from 200 block of West Main Street reported a scam. He fell for it. He lost $985.11. At 3:18 p.m., a caller from 1,000 block of Sutton Way reported a delivery driver advised a printer was stolen from his truck. And 4:11 p.m., a caller from Neal and South Auburn Street reported a male subject acting crazy in a gray Subaru station wagon who attempted to hit other vehicles and throw things out of the vehicle at other vehicles. At 4:43 p.m., a caller from Hughes Road and East Main Street reported a subject doing wheelies and going in circles in the middle of the street, causing a traffic hazard. 6:05 p.m., a caller from 200 block of Sutton Way reported being scammed for $35 via check by an unknown suspect. At 6:49 p.m., a caller from 600 block of Freeman Lane reported juveniles were on scooters and damaged his vehicle in the parking lot. 9:07 p.m., a caller from 600 block of Sutton Way reported theft of medication from her purse the night before last. And Friday, 2:05 a.m., a caller from 800 block of Sutton Way reported chasing off a transient in his mid-40s with shoulder-length brown hair, white tank top, red bandana, and gray sweatpants, who kept coming through the unlocked door and who was caught putting alcohol down his pants. The man dropped the bottles and left on foot. And that's it for the blotter today. Now another thanks to one of our underwriters who supports your only visual video news media in Nevada County. That's right, it's us. GVTV News.
Soundcheck Music Center, the rock and roll connection. We have guitars, amps, drum equipment, sound accessories, lessons, and repairs. We are located at 671 Maltman Drive, Grass Valley. 530-272-7236, open 7 days a week.
In today's local news headlines, producers upset by NCTV shutdown. Wonder why. And one longtime Nevada County television producer, Gil Dominguez, learned of the decision by the station's board of directors late on Friday afternoon to shut down the community's public access station. He said he was shocked. It feels like somebody is ripping out my guts, Dominguez said. Part of the shock is in reaction to the decision itself, Dominguez said, but some of his anguish is over the way NCTV's board of directors did not include the station's producers, many of whom outdate the board's members, or the community they serve, in making the decision to shutter the station. While the NCTV board reportedly made the decision at a closed-door special meeting August 15th, it was not announced until August 23rd. That announcement came in the form of a press release in Nevada County media, emailed at 4:45 p.m. that Friday. There is a culture of lack of openness, and that is the core of it, Dominguez added. Dominguez said he only learned of the impending closure of the station by reading about it on the union's website. It wasn't until 2 days later he said that the producers were notified by being emailed the press release. People are wondering why they weren't consulted, Dominguez said. Why did you bring in the producers and say that there is a problem and why didn't you bring us in and ask if we need solutions? Nonprofit tax-exempt agencies like NCTV or Nevada County Digital Media Center, as it is registered with the Internal Revenue Service, are required to disclose their annual tax records to the public, which includes the financial facts such as income, expenses, and payroll. However, nonprofits such as NCTV are not required to adhere to the Brown Act, an open meeting law that government agencies most obey, said Jan Mosaka, Executive Director of the California Association of Nonprofits, unless they are publicly elected officials assigned to their board. Well, basically, the Brown Act in California doesn't apply to the nonprofits, Masaka said. Well, sort of. Even though NCTV is not bound by the Brown Act, its board members did pledge to follow the law's transparency practices during the last public flap with the producers over the resignation of former Executive Director Paul Minicucci amid the transition to the new facilities, and spurred calls for board members' ouster over complaints of secrecy, among other grievances. Notices of future meetings, date, time, place, agendas, and board-approved minutes of the meetings will be posted on the sites. Read the minutes of April 17, 2012 board meeting under the section titled Improving Communications. The minutes also say meeting agenda will be sent to the membership. The minutes have been posted on NCTV's website since that April 2012 meeting, and with that portion of the website attributed to the omission of technical difficulties. Former board member, or president actually, Susan Rogers, who was board president in April 2012, did follow through her promise to establish an email list, which she still manages to disseminating notices and notifications for regular scheduled board meetings, she said. Although I'm a producer, I never get them. However, even Rogers was not informed of the special August 15th meeting. The board decided to close down NCTV. No one is warned about the meeting. People are still finding out the first time that they made this decision, Dominguez said. Am I surprised? No. Producers have been kept out for years. I agree with that. Board President Karen Maranovich defending the exclusionary meeting as a matter of personal issue regarding the loss of NCTV's two key staff members, executive director and engineer, both of whom volunteer most of the time. Well, the fact that the executive director is leaving is more public than we knew, Maranovich said, but the engineer's choice of leaving was asked to be held in confidence. She added on, ultimately, he asked us to hold it confidentially. I'm fixing my mic here. The nonprofit was fortunate to have a part-time volunteer leader but it's not sustainable. They never should have been put in a position in the first place, Maranovich said. It's not their responsibility to keep the nonprofit afloat. It is the responsibility of the past board to have laid a financial sound foundation. In this case, it did not occur. Well, the new board, you, didn't do it either, did you? Based on still to be refined financial records, NCTV's 2012 fiscal expenses were more than $160,000, which more than $60,000 were restricted funds only to be spent in equipment, while the nonprofit's expense was approximately $130,000, according to the board president. Having to hire an engineer and then hire an executive director, we would very quickly run out of deficit of $12,000 a month, Maranovich said. It's not the way to raise money as fast as we need to raise it. We would quickly be in very deep debt. Oh, gee, you just found out? The union requested NCTV's financial records Thursday, which Maranovich indicated were available, but noted that one of the current board primaries tacked was been untangling the organization of the books. While providing the big picture finances, the board president said the nonprofit finances would be available in more readable format by September 5th meeting between NCTV's board representatives from Grass Valley, Nevada City, and Gwinnett County, educational officials from Nevada Union High School. NCTV producers have also been invited to attend, said Nevada County Chief Information Officer Steve Monahan, whose agency has been eyed to take over the public broadcasting of government meetings. It would be good for them to hear from the board about the challenges, Monahan said, talking about government officials. We want to understand what brought them to this decision. However, Monahan said the public and the members of the press will not be allowed at that meeting. Oh, another closed-door meeting. Isn't that nice? It's a staff working meeting, Monahan said. Well, I don't think we get the frank conversation from the board on what the challenges have been if the press and the public were there. I mean, just because we, the public, own the station. Monahan points out that no decision of NCTV will be determined at Thursday's meeting. This isn't a meeting to determine the fate of NCTV by any means. He said this is a meeting to determine what brought NCTV to this point. Well, the public should know why. While Dominguez and some producers are calling for the board to step aside and let the members run the station, I agree with that. Marinovich is describing NCTV's closure as akin to bankruptcy restructuring. The model cannot continue. It's time to restructure, she said. It just isn't going to work and needs to be totally rebuilt, and it takes resources to do that. Reading these articles brings back many episodes for me at FGAT and NCTV. As one of the producers rarely mentioned in my 17 years of doing shows and video, it's sad to see this political football being squirted around. This current board of NCTV doesn't even know its promise to follow the Brown Act. The last board had a lawsuit about the same issue, and after the court agreeing to follow the Brown Act and the lawsuit went away, then they went back to ignoring it. Something this new board doesn't seem to know is that this is about public access television. It's for the everyday citizen to be able to express whatever their desire without commercial content. It's about free speech. If they think they have some mysterious powers above and beyond the rest of us, then they are mistaken. Having some local political officials and self-chosen board to hold another closed-door meeting, not allowing the media or the public to attend, is stepping out of bounds. We producers are who have always created most of the content and also volunteered and helped move the station both times as it moved. It's the community who comes on the shows that brings information and entertainment to the county. As I also worked on staff for about 1.5 years at NCTV, up to and through the final move to where it is now, I can tell you that the problem has been allowing the executive director to run the station with the staff, interns, and volunteers. Most board members never step foot in the station. Most board members have no clue as to how it operates. They did not do what the board was designed to do, and that was to raise funds. They would micromanage the office, the director, from a distance, making decisions once a month at their 2-hour board meetings. But that's all water under the bridge. If our community wants to have a successful media center and studio for everyone to enjoy, most of the hard work is already done. The new server and equipment is bought and paid for and put together so that anyone can plug it in and unplug it and move it and plug it back in again. This all thanks to Jay Kusa, who worked to put this new project in place after the rug was pulled out from Paul Minicucci in April of 2012. The last executive director. Government needs its Channel 17 to continue. Most equipment and recording is done at the Root Center. They can just send the broadcast to Comcast. County will be able to do that without a lot of effort. Public access is for us, the community. Some of us, long-term producers, would like to see the station run by producers who know how to operate it. The overhead is what the station will get out of the contracts like videotaping government meetings and the public access television fees negotiated with Comcast. What's apparent is that this station hasn't failed the public. The producers that give you content haven't failed, but the political infighting of some extra strong ego board members, past and present, have brought this on. Solution is failed board should resign, and the station has to negotiate an overhead it can afford, and the community should support it more than it does. Station has always worked with KNCO, KVMR, the Union, UBANet, and Grass Valley, and Nevada City, and they should in turn support this missing link in local media. As a producer, I would gladly put time into the station in the future to help make it work. We just need to run it like a private business with hands on it for success.